I'm Emily. Welcome to my channel. For today's video, I thought it would be super duper fun to tell you guys some stories that I have from when I worked at Starbucks. Now, before we get on with these stories, I do just want to say I do not have anything against Starbucks. If anything, I, for the most part, very much enjoyed working there. I had a lovely experience. I had some amazing coworkers, and for the most part, some pretty good store managers, except for those one or two bad store managers. Oh, and one more thing. If at any point you guys find yourselves enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. It is completely free and it helps me out more than you guys know. Alright, with that all being said, let's get on with the video. So this first story is when I was actually quite new to the job. I'm talking 1 to 2 weeks on the job. And for those that do not know, here in America at least, I don't know about other countries as I don't live in other countries, nor do I go to Starbucks in other countries. But here in America, typically there would be a pride flag up during the month of July. And on one of these days during the month of July, I was working the drive-through window as I was still quite fairly new at the job. So my skills and where I could work were quite limited. So I was put at the drive-through window. And for those that do not know, the drive-through window is essentially just someone at the window who will take the payment and hand out the drinks. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Anyways, while I was working the window, a grandma and her granddaughter, who I'm not even joking, wasn't any older than probably 12 or 13 years old. They had just pulled up to the window, and I'm not even joking, I didn't even get a chance to hand out their drink or collect a payment. Like, I hadn't gotten a chance to do anything. They had just pulled up to the window and started yelling at me. Both of them yelling and cursing at me, asking for an explanation for why Starbucks had a pride flag up. Now, here's the thing. The pride flag, it was outside on like the side railing. So it wasn't even like out front in the open. It wasn't like hidden, but it most definitely was not up in your face. It was, if you noticed it, you noticed. If you didn't, then you didn't. Anyways, this grandma and her grandchild are literally yelling at me and cursing me out for why there was a pride flag up. Eventually, they calmed down, or I should say, they didn't really calm down. They just stopped yelling at me at some point, and I was finally able to get a word in. I had explained to them that we have a pride flag up just to show our support regardless of who you do or don't support. We are here to serve everyone. Clearly, they did not like that answer, and so they started yelling and cursing at me even more. Again, this is a grandma and her granddaughter who isn't even in high school. I don't even think in middle school. With all this yelling and cursing happening to me, my friend who had been at the job for a couple years more than me. She was a shift at the time. She comes running up to the window because she's like, hey, what the heck is happening? Why are you getting yelled at? She gets up to the window and starts asking the grandma and granddaughter what the problem is, what can we do to help make it better? And then they started yelling and cursing at her about why there's a pride flag up. And surprise, surprise, she told them the same exact answer that I gave. Again, they were very much not happy with that. Before we could even offer them their drinks for free, they just yelled at us that they will not be coming back, which, to be honest, is not the worst thing that I've heard come out of their mouths. If anything, it was probably the best thing that I heard come out of their mouths. And they just sped off. They were not having it. And not to brag or anything, you guys, but during that whole situation, I was giving them the Gen Z stand and stare. Because why wouldn't I? I mean, you're getting yelled at for something that you didn't even do. I was just doing my job. Apparently, that's just not good enough these days. Alright, so for the second story, I had been at the job for quite some time. I think I was just about to hit a year, or I was just over a year. Again, I was working drive-through. For some odd reason, I was just really good at drive-through. And I think that's just because I talked a lot. Because at least for my Starbucks, we were told that when you're at the drive-through and there's people waiting at the window for their order, you are to talk to them if you don't have anyone who's waiting to get their order taken. And like I said, I guess I was really good at talking to the people, but to be fair, if there's one skill that I have, it is being a blabbermouth. I'm also apparently really good at unintentionally flirting. And yes, these are important details to know. It was near nighttime. I was part of the closing crew, so obviously it was nighttime, it was getting close to closing, and there was this one guy. He came through the drive-through, obviously, and because I wanted to keep my job, I started conversing with this man, and I'm not even joking. I think he was, either his, I want to say like mid 20s to late 20s. I was 16, maybe 17 at the time. And if you're thinking, oh my goodness, yes, this is one of those stories. Anyways, like I was saying, I was conversing with the guy because I wanted to keep my job. We're waiting for his drink, and I'm just like, hey, how are you doing tonight? Any plans for the night? And the guy's like, no, just getting off of work, maybe just chilling and whatnot. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fun. I'm almost done with my shift for tonight too. You know, trying to be polite and trying to have something in common. It was. It's kind of hard, I found, to be 16, 17 and have something in common with almost 30-year-old. Anyways, he's like, yeah, maybe you should come over and whatnot. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like, again, I'm just trying to be nice. I thought he was joking, so I was joking around with him. Maybe I'm bad at reading context clues during that moment. Maybe I was just tired. I eventually gave him his drink because it was finally ready. And before he leaves, he pulls out a business card with his, well, obviously with his name and his number. He gives me a wink and goes, I hope to see you sometime again soon. While I'm stunned, my two co-workers in the back behind me start looking at me with that little tee-hee-hee-hee smile, right? The next morning, everyone knew about this incident because it just spread like wildfire that fast. And we've never saw the guy again. If I could take one thing out of that story, it would be don't try and hook up with a minor. A lot of these are going to be with me at drive-thru because that's practically all that I did at my job, or at least when these stories happened. So again, as I was saying, I was at drive-thru, and I don't know about you guys, but if you tell me the name of a certain drink that was invented on TikTok, I'm not gonna know what it is. So one day, this one gal comes through the window, or not the window, the order screen, and she goes, I would like the zebra drink. And once again, I'm looking at my POS system, kind of giving like the Gen Z confused stare, and I'm just like, I don't know what that is. So I tell her, I'm so sorry, we do not have a zebra drink. Once again, I start getting yelled at. Eventually, my other coworker, he was the shift for that shift, obviously. He gets onto the mic and he goes, that's a TikTok drink. We do not have it, but if you know the recipe, you can tell us. She very much did not like that answer, and so she started yelling and cursing at us again, and she drove off without ordering. Moral of the story, don't say the TikTok name of a drink because your baristas, there's a chance your barista that's taking your order is not going to know what that drink is. for example, me, I was not on Starbucks TikTok. No, no, no. I was on the side of TikTok where I was watching edits of Genshin Impact characters and Haikyuu characters and rewatching Island and crying my eyes out. So obviously I'm not on TikTok Starbucks. Now, I don't have a story in particular for double star days, but I would be lying if I didn't have my own personal accounts of people yelling at me and being very angry at me for not having their drink out, even though it's a double star day, meaning everyone's in the drive-through and store. And on those days, honestly, we're just trying to get out as many drinks as we possibly can. It's just first comes, first serves. And I'm going to tell you something. Some people did not like that. You'd be surprised how often you get yelled at for that stuff. I know it's like a pretty obvious thing that you get yelled at for by incompetent customers, but the amount that yell at you is kind of like a surprise. Like, are you serious? Like, why are we all incompetent? Did we not look outside the store and see how many cars or people in or around the store? Like, it's not my fault you decided to get an Americano in a very packed store with a very long drive-through line when you're 10 minutes away from a meeting. I cannot tell you how many people are like, I'm late for my meeting. Like, ma'am, you could have came sooner or after your meeting. Why am I at fault? I was supposed to clock out 10 minutes ago, but I can't because people like you are making it impossible for me. But you don't see me complaining about it till now. I'm sorry, guys. Those days really just got me riled up because they're like the meanest on those days. Now, for this last story, it was a really nice, beautiful, sunny day. And it was just one of those days where everyone was in line at the drive-thru. And so, in true fashion, during these types of days, everyone is running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Even though we knew what we were doing, it was still busy and we were all moving around to get these drinks out. And during this day, this bleach blonde comes to the window. She ordered a caramel macchiato with sweet cream cold foam and a birthday cake pop. She was sitting in the passenger seat with her boyfriend driving. And I'm just gonna start off by saying I feel bad for the boyfriend and I hope he broke up with her soon after because that has got some real attitude. Or I should say she had some real attitude. She probably still does. She was like a bratty. So I collect their payment and I go to hand out their drink. Now, if you know anything, again, about Starbucks, sometimes when you order sweet cream cold foam, sometimes it spills out of the lid just slightly. It's very common. We don't intentionally try to do it. It just happens sometimes. So with her cold foam kind of spilling out on top of the lid just a little bit. It didn't even like go past the lid. It was just sitting on the lid, right? She is just so angry at me and she's like, can I get a nitro lid? And I explained to her, I'm so sorry. We do not have any nitro lids at the moment right now, but if you'd like, I can get you a new lid. She says yes to the new lid. I get her the new lid. I hand the lid to her boyfriend, and she yanks it out of his hand, and she goes, napkins? So I'm like, yes, I'll go get you some napkins. So I get her some napkins. I hand them to her boyfriend. She yanks them out of his hands again. And then she goes, cake pop. I then go and grab her cake pop. Her birthday cake pop. I hand the cake pop to her boyfriend. She yanks it out of his hand and she gives me, oh, this is not working. Hello. I give the boyfriend the cake pop. She yanks that out of his hand and she just, and she gives me like one of those like glares where, I don't know, like I'm going to try and explain this. If you know, you know. Like she shakes her head like she's like calling me like dumb, like it's like that glare and head movement where they're like, you dumb. And I'm just kind of like there. I'm just like, are you serious? Like, could I have probably been a little more efficient with my stuff? Yes. Like, she was just rude to me off the bat. I don't even know. You know, it's a bad experience with a customer, though, when you remember their exact order, like, years later after the incident. Anyways, I think that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe. They are both completely free and it helps me out more than you know. With that all being said, go get a job as a retail worker or food service job. Maybe then we could all be a better society. I don't know. Probably be a lot nicer to one another. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.